Hello and welcome to another episode of Sex Talk. This is episode 32 and I'm here with Goddess Rue. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I just did.
I mean, that's fine.
Period.
I like that.
Welcome, my name is Iyanna The Model, also Iyanna James Stevenson, and I am your host for Sex Talk, and I am very excited to welcome this amazing, beautiful goddess and Pisces, period, on the podcast for today. So if you'll please let the people know who you are, briefly give a introduction, then we can get into questions.
Absolutely. Hello, beautiful people. I am Goddess Rue. Thank you so much for having me on the show, first and foremost. I am a multifaceted entrepreneur. I do literally everything there is under the sun. I am a Pro D0mme, but I first started owning an erotic online business. So I sell everything from sex toys to lingerie, furniture you can use to get a little kinky. I host adult parties, primarily for the Black and brown people of the community. I'm a sensual dance teacher and also a relationship therapist. So, yeah, I do a little bit of everything.
Period. Okay. Multifaceted. We love to see it. Multi-hyphenate. I feel like this day and age is all about being multi-hyphenate too.
Absolutely.
Like the Issa Raes of the world. It's like,
exactly.
This is where we need to be. I love it. Well, we're going to get into all that. But the first question that I ask everybody, it is kind of like my general question because so many people have so many different answers to this question based on what their experience and their relationship to the subject. So, what is your relationship to sex?
I'm hyper sexual. I am. I mean, I teach it, I own it, I live it. I like to say I'm trying to break the stigma down associated with people that are hypersexual. There's nothing wrong with it, especially if you're being safe, if you know who your partner or partners are. An open line of communication is always healthy. And just knowing your body, knowing what your pleasure is, what you want, what you like. I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. So I proudly own that I'm absolutely hypersexual. That's my relationship.
How would you describe hypersexuality? Because when I hear hypersexual, I feel like it is a person who just likes a lot of sex. And like, is it just that you're referring to, or is there any other like aspect of hypersexuality that you like want people to know to further, kind of like dismantle how people misconstrue the concept?
Right. And I thank you for even asking me to break that down because for me personally, it's just me liking a lot of sex. I have a specific partner. However, for different people, it can mean different things. It can mean that you're hypersexual with different partners. So it all depends on the person you're speaking to.
Yeah. Because I think that like, I've had someone tell me I don't like sex because I could spend very long periods of time without it. So I would want to, do you think that hypersexuality is like you liking a lot of sex, but does that coincide with you being abstinent or being celibate in any way? Or do you really connect it to like you actively having a lot of sex at all times as well as you liking it as well?
I think me liking it and also continuously doing it. So abstinence is definitely not a part of that. We're not even gonna. No,
we don't do that.
No, we doing it too.
Okay.
So yes, definitely not abstinence. Take that out of the equation.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to hypersexuality, when did you come to the idea or like the conception of you being hypersexual? And has that ever changed over time? Has that always been a thing over time? And have you felt differently about it over time?
It's something that I had to understand in learning myself because I would say at a young age, even a teenager, I always knew like what's going on, like going through puberty and things of that nature. Coming from like a West Indian background, we're always taught sex is not, that should not be your main focus. It's not okay. You need to wait to marriage, whatever, the traditional nonsense, whatever. it was never broken down to me that sex is a part of life. So at some point in your life, when you're ready and mature enough, you know, with what everything that comes along with it, then it's okay to engage in the act, right? And I just had to go through life and learn. And it started with me doing a lot of masturbating. And I was always one of those friends that everybody would come to and like, you know, Rue, so I'm interested in doing this and that. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure it out, because I was always so comfortable in speaking about it and learning about it. I was one of those teenagers. As soon as I turned 18, I'm down in Soho, the sex toys shops. I'm like, I come in, I'm in there. I'm looking at the toys. I'm looking at this, and figget it. When Amazon came about, and we could ship items, and I'm shipping my stuff discreetly. I'm like, I'm gonna try this out. You know, so definitely at an earlier age, I would say 18 to 20, that's when I was really like trying to figure it out and exploring my body and, you know, inviting toys into my sex life and stuff like that. I think I scared maybe
everyone.
Some people, they like, what is going on with her? I don't know about that. But I mean, look, I make a living off of it now. I teach people like, listen, it's okay to introduce toys into your bedroom and learn your body and have fun. Spice it up, you know?
Period. I love that. Do you feel like prior to 18 was always a comfort in your own body, like part of your life? Like, do you think that there was a progression in like how comfortable you were, or was there just a maturity that kind of built on top of one another? Like you were always comfortable, and then when you turned 18, you were now comfortable and free to go into sex stores. So like, is that like really how it was?
So I feel like I was always comfortable within myself, but allowing other people to know how comfortable I am, that's the part I was guarded on. That was the part that I didn't let people know, like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm into, this is what I'm exploring. Because again, growing up in a household where you're taught this is not okay, I always felt that it had to be hush or quiet, something secret, something sacred. And it is in a certain sense, but as far as owning your truth and what you like and who you are, I feel like that's just something that I should be vocal about, you know?
Yeah, when was it something that became public for you? Because now you're a public figure. Now you're, you know, a pro dominatrix. You're a sex worker. Now, even if you use an alias, like people know your face, people know your background, people who are in your family have seen you. So how do you navigate people knowing this part about you now in a public sense? And like, when did that transition happen for you?
Growing up, I've always been considered like the rebel of my family. So
You're the middle child?
I'm the oldest.
Oh.
Yeah, I literally, I walk to the beat of my own drum. Like, I don't give a damn. Like, I'm a Pisces, my mom's a Leo. We constantly bump heads because I'm like, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do. And it was always an issue. Just not even me getting into like me being a pro dom and my business choices. Just everything in life, certain life decisions like going to college and stuff. I'm not going to college. I'm not doing that. I'm going to like a trade school. I'm going to do this. So it was always like, I knew what I wanted. I knew where I was going. I knew I always wanted more. It was just, how am I going to get it? And me just navigating life. I tell people, I've literally had every job there is to have. I've held positions where on paper, I wasn't qualified to have it, but my intelligence and the way I pick things up so quickly and the way I network and speak with people, they're like, no, we need you. This is what it is. Like, we hired you for this, but this is what you're doing. So I always made it work. Always.
So when they start to see you publicly, how did that,
for me,
how did that feel or turn out or happen?
Honestly, when I first started, I kind of started like a faceless dom because in a sense I didn't know how people were going to take it. And then also I'm a mother of 3. I have 3 children. So that was really my main concern. My kids are not babies. They're in middle school, high school. Well, I do have a baby. She's 4. She's 25. But, you know, just protecting them and just knowing what children go through, life struggles, people bullying them, and things of that nature. I get a little mama bearish. I don't play by my babies. And I never wanted to put them in a position where people would say things to them in regards to me and they feel attacked or feel vulnerable where they don't know how to live their lives as children. And that's why I'm very guarded and calculating with what I post and how I post. And so in that sense, you know, when it came out and I decided to put my face, everything about me was dominant. I am dominant. I own it. And I try to debunk the myths around a pro dom as far as like it's sexual in the sense where it's an exchange of sex, where you're having sex with your customers or the clients. That's not what I'm doing at all. And there's an array of kinks. However, I don't participate in all of them. And I'm very vocal with what I do and how I do it. And that's why I use my platform to teach people that this is what I do, this is how I do it, and you can do it too if you're a mother, if you're in a family dynamic. Because a lot of people feel like, oh, you're doing this leather and latex and lace and you know, sex and beatings, and sometimes it's not even that at all. You know, sometimes it's like a therapy session, you know, where people come to you to speak to you because they know you understand what they're into and you're not judging them. So it's a safe space I'm creating. So it's just, I mean, yeah, that was like my little journey of coming out and letting people know what I do. As far as like the adults and people I've worked with or family and friends, I honestly could give a damn. I'm gonna live my life. Hey, it is what it is. You know, and a lot of times I would say with West Indian people, very prideful. And I feel like us migrating from, you know, where we come from here, it's always about money and obtaining a better life. So when they saw the coins coming in, they wasn't telling me nothing.
They were like,
I literally made more money investing in myself than when I was working. I used to work in the board of education. I literally was, I was broke. I was time broke. It was just stressful, living paycheck to paycheck. Now, I blink my eye, I wake up, I say I want to go on vacation, I'm taking my kids, we're doing whatever we want, literally. I do what I want. So it was literally one of the best decisions I ever made.
Amazing. We all want to live that life.
I mean, it's attainable.
Period.
It is definitely attainable.
I love that. When did you know that you wanted to be a pro dom specifically? Like even when it came to you loving sex, even when it came to you engaging in it, even when it came to you exploring your own sexuality when you were 18, going to the sex stores, like when did you know that you want to do this as a profession and how did you get into it?
So I started the erotic business first and foremost. I'm not going to sit here and say I always knew I wanted to be a pro dom. I didn't even have a clue what it was when I first started. So this is something that was introduced to me along my journey. I was hosting a party and, you know, one of the people that were there, a white guy approached me and he was like, hey, would you dominate me and I'll pay you $250? My antennas went up. I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? Now, me, I like to talk to people because I like to understand where we're going, what we're talking about, like, what is this? You know, and with me having a conversation with him and getting a little bit more information, I kind of put it in my back pocket. I did the session. I got my $250. That was the fastest.
Don't get it wrong.
Yeah, that was the fastest $250 I ever made in my life. Okay? And so after that, I felt like I was on a high. I was like, he paid me for this. Who else can I get to do this? And that's when I went on my deep dive and started to do research and figure out, like, what is this? What's going on? Wait a minute. There's a world? Wait, hold on. So being a dominatrix is a thing. And not just a thing as far as a lifestyle. Pro, you're getting paid for it? Oh, yeah, I got to figure this out. And that's how I literally went down a rabbit hole. Because the things that I was introduced to, some of it, I was like,
not that part.
Hold up. This is a part of it? Hold up, okay. But now it's just like nothing surprises me anymore. I'm to that point. I started this over 8 years ago. Nothing surprises me at this point. I'm so comfortable. I'm very fluid. Whatever it is, it's either I'm into it or no, I don't do that. Or I may know someone that's into it. It's a network of us. It's a community of doms. So it's like if I don't do something, I'm gonna pass you off to somebody that I know is professional, safe, and consent driven, so that they can, do the session with them.
Yes, I love that. I always talk about the difference between like sensuality and sexuality, and especially when you mention having different aspects of what you do have nothing to do with sex or nothing to do with penetrative sex. So did you always feel sensual, and then how important have you understood sensuality is in the work that you do, and like how much of it is sensual as opposed to sexual, like you mentioned earlier?
So that's kind of like my brand. I'm essentially sadistic dom. I do not have sex with my subs at all whatsoever. So I'm pretty much selling a image. They're pretty much, they come to me because they see me on the internet and they have this idea of who I am or what am I going to be giving in a session. So you're already fantasizing about me. You're already thinking, Rue, in my presence, this is what's going to be going on. Just the way she speaks, the way she walks, the way she moves, the way she touches her paddles or her floggers, it entices me. In none of that am I physically touching you. Some sessions I have, you can't even look at me. You can never touch me. So it's all sensual.
What made you, was it just a personal boundary that you know that you had, or something that you already knew that you liked, which put in your mind the type of dom you want it to be? Like, I already know I don't really like people touching me. I already know that I'm like really sensitive with people engaging with me physically, so I already know it's going to be sensual. Or was that something that you had to figure out in a way too?
I just had to figure out the name for it, but that's just me in general. Even growing up, dom, no dom, vanilla life, and in the lifestyle, I don't like people touching me. I'm big on boundaries, and I just don't like physical touch. I feel like it's an exchange of energy, and unless I, welcome it, I don't want it. So I do not like people touching me at all. Like, that's just a no. And especially in that sense, where it's classified as a sexual act, I like boundaries. Like, you can't touch me at all. So when I first started, I would do like face sitting, which is a kink. However, I would be fully clothed. Some people are not. They'll wear lingerie, whatever they're comfortable with, honestly, and that's fine. But for me, I felt like, I'm going to be fully clothed. I'm wearing my latex pants, or even I've faced out with jeans on, like literally jeans. And I'm like, damn, this is harsh. And then I realized, I'm like, damn, I don't really like this, because I don't want to feel any aspect of them on me. So I like cut that out, like all the way through. So no, I don't like the touch. I kind of already knew that's what it was. But when I realized to put the name on it so people know, it was a go. I'm essentially sadistic. Like, I'll beat the shit out of you. And we already know what that comes with. It's just your pain tolerance at that point. Like, what can you handle? It's a light switch with me, on and off.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to sadism, for people who don't know, sadist or sadism is someone who likes to inflict pain, and there's of course different thresholds for it. Okay, she's ready. Obviously, there's different thresholds for it, and then a masochist is someone who likes to receive pain. So sadism and masochism, they go hand in hand. So for whoever wants to be on the receiving end, they do. Whoever wants to be on the giving end, to do that as well. Have you always been a sadist? I feel like when it comes to things like this, we have aspects of those things that have always been within ourselves, because I'm a little bit of a sadist too. Like, I remember one time, this is not like that severe, but I remember one time I was having sex with a partner and I scratched his back. He was like, ow. I was like, ooh. Not that you a punk and you can't take my scratch. Like, we ain't doing this no more. But I realized that in that sense, Like, yeah, I wasn't like kicking him in the throat, but I realized that like I do like my partner to have a certain level of pain tolerance in order for me to be aroused, that I can inflict pain on you and you're gonna like it. Right. So you have to have some type of masochistic element to your pleasure or your arousal threshold in order for me to even feel comfortable doing anything to you sexually. So was it something that was a journey for you to understand what type of things you want to inflict when it came to pain as a sadist, or like how did you find that out for yourself?
It was definitely a journey. So I'm not going throughout every day like beating people, right? That's not happening. So it definitely came along my journey becoming a Pro D0mme. Someone asked about me paddling them, and I'm not gonna lie, my first session was, I feel like it was a shit show. But I'm glad I communicated with him, like, listen, this is my first time, but we're going to figure this out. He was willing to do it. And I found that when I first hit him, I like to build up. Yes. It's always a build up for me, right? Because I don't know when it's too much. And I don't want to just take you all the way there and then the session's over. That's boring. That's not what you paid for. That's not what I set my day for. Like, you know, I wanted to actually be a session. And, during the build-up, I realized, like, oh, he can really take it. This is really making me feel all right. I'm about to let some stress out. You can take it, all right, we're going to go. And I found in that moment, like, yo, I like this, and I didn't even expect to like it. I didn't think I was going to like it. It was just something I was doing for the money. I was doing it because I was getting paid to do it. So dominating a person, I like to do that. However, when you're inflicting pain, I didn't know how I would take that. I didn't know if I would like it. I don't know. But I found out that I love it. Oh my God, I love it. Let me tell you, paddling, inflicting pain, and then another turn on for me, like stepping on someone's chest, trampling. You can feel like their chest like moving under your feet.
Oh my God.
It's just, yeah. I like that.
Do you, because you like the aspect of like being clothed, do you love to do that with shoes on, with heels on? Do you like to, I don't know, feel the bottom of your foot on them? Like, how do you like to trample?
So I do it with shoes, without shoes. It depends on the sub's like pain tolerance or what they can handle or how big they are. Because I've had like bodybuilders and they're like, step on me with your shoes, goddess, or they have a foot fetish, shoe fetish, whatever. So I'll do it with shoes, without shoes. In that sense, I have no preference. I'm fine with either or, barefoot. Because I do foot worship. I will allow a sub to kiss my feet. You know, I feel like you're at the bottom of me. You can't get any lower than that. But you're not going higher than my ankle. Like, I've allowed them to, like, massage my feet. Things like that. Like, I'll allow that, you know. I've even shoved my foot in someone's throat, like, and they're gagging on it. Yeah. So, things like that I'm fine with. Yeah.
What would you say is the most frequent request you get from subs on an average? And does that align with also things that you heavily enjoy, or does that kind of fall on the side of you just like, I get this request a lot and I just do it because I get a lot of money from this request?
Okay, so that question is like in parts, because I feel like when I first started, I don't know why, I was getting a lot of requests for pegging. And that's one of like the highest paying jobs, that kinks that you'll get paid for. Like, that's the highest paid. So when I first started, it was a lot of pegging, and I became a pro. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get this money. I'm gonna get this money. So when I first started, I would charge like $500 an hour for pegging. Now it's $1,200, and then if you want additional kinks done, it's an add-on. But for right now, I'm getting a lot of foot like worship sessions. Like, people want to worship my feet. They want me to sell them my socks. Step on their feet. Like, I put a lot of those things on my Instagram because it's a little bit more censored. It's not too crazy. Instagram will flag you or whatever. But I put those up. But definitely a lot of foot worship sessions right now. They want to massage my feet. I love them. They want to kiss my big toe. I love them.
Why not? Why not? So about that. Okay. Can someone go get her? Do we have any questions?
Me? I'm not asking questions?
Do we have any questions on the live?
No, there's no questions right now.
Paying more attention.
I was.
Okay. We can continue. All right. So, what's the question?
You have questions?
I don't know.
I'm surprised.
Sir don't know, so we don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
If you do have any questions, or if you had any questions, please put them in the question box below. That way they're easily recognizable instead of scrolling.
Yeah.
But to continue, we're going to have a brief interruption, but don't worry about that. To continue, I always ask about like zodiac signs. First of all, we're going to have 4 Pisces in the room, so shout out to us, okay? Shout out to us, gang in here, okay?
And another one.
Okay, DJ Caddy. When it comes to your sign, have you ever had anyone have any misconceptions or myths about you being a Pisces when it connects to your sexuality? Like, has anybody ever associated something that you did sexually, or maybe your openness, or maybe your go with the flow, or maybe like your fluidness, like to your sign specifically? Or has someone ever connected your personality to your sex life?
I would say not necessarily, honestly. When I hear people speak about Pisces and then in a sexual sense, they're never really entwined. And I'd be like, nah, y'all leaving us out. Y'all leaving us out. And we need to be up there with the Scorpios, the Leos, and everything else. Because one thing about a Pisces, we're givers. We're nurturers. We want to make sure that we excel in everything that we do. So we're giving our 1,000%, right? And I feel like that also translates in sex, for me at least. What about you?
Yes. Okay, so I haven't had any misconceptions for real. Well, if I think about it, I would say that like people have had misconceptions about like my imagery or the way that I like portray myself, because I consider myself a social dominant but a sexual switch, and then I also enjoy like being a sub sexually, especially with my partner. And not to say that to be a giver you are a sub, but there is like a bottoming aspect to giving. And so just because of the positioning of like how you are like connecting to your partner and how you are connected to the other person, there's this like, you know, aspect of subbing in that. And I love that, because I love a dominant person. I like social dominance as well. We just be reigning together. But when it comes to the bedroom, like I also really love to kind of like succumb to the dominance of my partner. So I would say, like, based on things that I wear, or like the way that I speak, or like how I may assert myself, I think people have taken that and been like, you must be telling people what to do, and you know, in the bedroom. And I'm like, well, not necessarily all the. I mean, I could, but not necessarily all the time, you know, because I do enjoy switching. And for someone who doesn't know what a switch is, someone who is a switch can be a dom and a sub in a way, someone who can top and bottom. But the way that I think that I further explain it is that like a switch is someone who not only has like aspects of top and bottom in them, or dom and sub in them, but someone who can switch from being dom and sub in the same sexual session. Yes, like that's the way that I describe it. Because I feel like, yeah, you can give and take in different times, but like, can you give and take at the same time? And like, what does that feel for you? And like, how much of that kind of arouses you in that space? And for me, like, that's big for me. Like, I would say like switch for sure. But in terms of misconceptions, I think that like I'll walk around with a paddle, people are like, damn, she might be someone. And I'm like, I mean, I could, but I would say like my presentation probably gives off the most misconception.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree somewhat, because I can be submissive with my partner. That's it, the end, and that's all.
That's it, and that's all.
That's it, the end, that's all, period. And we're gonna move right along. But yeah, I feel like the same. But people see me and they think I'm badass, hardcore, always. And then when I'm not even being a dom, I've heard like people say like, oh my God, you're so sweet, you're so nice. You have like this resting bitch face, but you're so nice. Yeah, I heard that. I get that all the time. I'm used to that one. When I've heard people say it, I'm like, yeah, I know. My mom told me all the time. Put a smile on your face. You look so mean. So I'm just like, I'm always in thought. Our imagination is always going. Pisces' mind is always on the go. So I feel like I get lost there sometimes, and my face is not always so welcoming. But I'm very nice. I love people to a certain extent. But yeah, but that's the only really misconception. So yeah, people they think that you're hard, you're mean, you're strong, or always about business. They don't know if they can have a conversation with you, or if you're open or welcoming. I'm very open and very welcoming. You know, yeah, I only beat you if you
ask for it. If you want it, you can get it.
That's right.
Okay. So we're talking about a lot of openness, you know, a lot of, I guess, like, really euphoric and, like, progressive ways that we think about our body, think about our sex life, think about our journey through sex. But do you have any sexual fears? And if so, what are they?
You know, I never thought about that, honestly. I feel like I kind of got over my fears, I guess, in a sense. Like, was it even a fear? No, I don't really think I had a fear associated with sex and being open, honestly. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Nothing really scares me. Fear? Nah.
What is that?
Nah, not in that aspect. Yeah.
Have you ever had any negative sexual experiences that you, like, over time have turned around because of a pivotal point in your life? Or have your sexual experiences have always been, like, pretty positive and as open as you are?
I would say me learning to advocate for myself and learning the power of no and being able to communicate what feels good, what I don't like, you know, that definitely came over time. Because yes, you know, I've always liked sex. However, I didn't always know how to have sex. Like, everybody can do the do, but do you know how to do it? Do you know how to make it pleasurable? Do you know what you like? I didn't know. So there were times where, you know, I was with a partner and things were a little bit too rough and I didn't know how to say no. Not that I didn't want it or it was something
that could have been a build up for you.
Right.
It was just at that moment.
Right. It was just
going
too
slow down.
It was going too rough, too fast. Like, hold on a second. Like, we got to slow it down. And I didn't know how to advocate or communicate that without it coming out like, I don't want this at all, you know? So I guess learning, like, my, how could I say, like, sexual language and this is pleasurable or do this or don't do that or do that a little bit more, a little bit longer. That it had to come over time.
What would be some tips for people who are trying to do these things and advocate for themselves in that way? Like, you mentioned a few things like, hey, do this a little bit more, do this a little bit longer, but like, what are some key tips that you can give to someone who is learning how to advocate for themselves to like sex as much as they should?
Right. I always say, before you're in a position where you're actually engaging in sex with a partner or someone else, definitely try to masturbate on your own. So you know your build-up points. You know when something is too much and you can learn with yourself how to say, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. No, I don't like too much penetration. I don't like when you go too deep, or I don't like when it's too rough. I don't like when something's vibrating too long. You have to, you know, explore yourself first before you can enter a situation with a person and they're doing something and you don't know how to communicate what's going on in that moment. I feel like when you're exploring with your body, you can say, okay, wait, I felt this before. No, I don't like this. Can you slow down? Or, you know, can we switch positions? Can we turn a little bit? I like it more on my side, you know? And I found that even having like panels and speaking with a group of other people, a lot of times people are afraid to advocate for themselves because they don't want their person or their partner to feel like they're overly experienced or they've had too many partners and it scares them away. There's nothing wrong with advocating for yourself. And I said, what? You know me, I'm like, what? Like, what do you... okay, that's your experience, but in that case, then you should be communicating before sex.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like you're not sexually mature enough. Because no matter how many partners I've had, me advocating or letting you know what I like and how I like it should not be an issue. You know, it's just that we're engaging in an act right now, and I want it to be more pleasurable. It may be pleasurable for you, but I'm not there yet. So how can we get me there so that we both can enjoy this? That's really what it should be. But not everyone is open or, like I say, sexually mature enough to understand that and receive that. A lot of people don't receive information well.
Yeah. I think that that's a great tidbit. It's interesting because I have a short film actually about my sexuality. It's entitled Sacred Energy Exchange, a personal story on polyandry, kink, and masturbation. And I end with masturbation to not only hone in on like the importance of knowing yourself, your body, before anyone else has a chance to misuse, abuse your body, anyone has a chance to experience your body without you even knowing who you are in that way. But also because it's like very important learning for you for that same reason, like for advocacy, for confidence, for like understanding all these things about yourself that you don't have to question when it comes to somebody else.
Absolutely.
I think that when it comes to someone asking you a question, you being hesitant about something that has to do with you, it's just your lack of knowledge,
Absolutely.
And that shouldn't be an aspect with an act so intimate and so connected to like you showing all of yourself. I was just rewatching another sex talk that I did. I think it was episode 27 or something. So it was my first like live in-person sex talk I actually did earlier this year when I did a sensual art series in Massachusetts for this organization, and I did different aspects of sensual arts. I performed burlesque, I showed my film, and I did a live sex talk with a live audience and loved it. I gotta do this more often. Right, so I'm like, I was reading that back because I was like writing some captions to it because the audio wasn't, the best. I was telling you to have people understand what we're saying. And yeah, I think that one of the things that the other person I was interviewing, her name is Daphne Dumore. She's a performance artist in Eastern Massachusetts. She was saying that, sometimes it might be awkward or sometimes people feel weird about like saying things during sex. And like to your point, people feel all types of ways I didn't know people felt like.
Absolutely.
But I was saying too, like, I think also so many people deal with individuals who they are not comfortable with, they don't necessarily like, they don't necessarily connect with. And so of course it's even more weird when you're talking about boundaries with somebody you don't like. Or you're talking about like what I like with somebody you don't like. Or you're talking about no, touch me there with somebody you don't really mess with. It's like you need to really start engaging with people who you actually have a connection with in order for things to flow as smoothly as they should. Like, too many people are engaging with people just for the fact of engaging with them, and it's making a lot of issues come up when it comes to how comfortable you should be.
Right.
And, like, I'm totally against that.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. I feel like when you're having sex with a person, that should be your safe space. So you should feel comfortable to say what you like and what you don't like, advocate for yourself. And unfortunately, that's not happening. You have people meeting each other for the first time, having one night stands, whatever. It's cool. But when you don't know how to speak up for yourself, I don't feel like it's necessarily the best thing to engage in because I don't feel like you're there 100%. You get there, we all get there at some point in time, it's fine. And sometimes, we go through things, and experience is the best teacher. So when you experience things sometimes, that's when like, okay, I was a little mute this time. I don't like the feeling. I want to be able to say, hey, this is what I like, what I don't like, or I'm just not going to engage in this with this person. Maybe next time it'll be a person that I'm familiar with, I'm comfortable with, that I know, that I like. So that it can be more enjoyable. But, life is full of different experiences. It builds character. It builds, us into who we are. And, I think in the end, we all have our journeys. We'll get there. Yeah.
Wonderful. I agree. Sex is such a wonderful thing.
It's a beautiful
when you do
thing.
it safely, when
Right.
you do it with someone you connect with, when you do it in a way where it's explorative for your body and it's expansive, like I think that one of the reasons why I started this podcast is because putting sex on a platform of conversation like changes the way people are exposed to the conversation around sex to begin with, and then people understand how important it is for the elevation of their own life. I feel like a lot of people downplay how sex elevates life, and how if you are restricted in sex, you're restricted in life. Like there's like you can't even live fully with those things, you know, holding you back. And I think that there's really this like undermining idea of how this freedom is not supposed to make you feel free in all other aspects, which is, you know, just not true. And yeah, I love that you have found that for yourself, okay?
Yes,
and you are out here teaching the people.
Absolutely.
Teaching
I
the
feel
people
like
what
that's
to
my
do.
It's my calling. That's what I was meant to do.
Yes, I love
It's
that.
definitely one of my purposes, you know, helping people in that aspect. So
yeah, I feel the same way. Let's see, time check. Okay, we good. How many minutes we got on there, sir?
What do you want?
I don't know how to check that next one.
Okay, no worries. Let's thanks. Let's see what we should ask now.
Still no
Do we have any questions?
Where is the wine and cheese?
Okay, sir, you're not the best at this. Let me just say.
That's the first question right there.
Okay. Irrelevant. Let's look at some other questions that we have written down here. Okay, so what is the most important aspects of sex right now for you as a mature woman, this age, your children? Like, what's the most important aspect of sex?
The most important aspect of sex for me right now, I would say consent and pleasure. Because sometimes you may want it, your partner doesn't, vice versa. And I feel like if it's not pleasurable, it's a waste. Like, nobody got time to waste. You know what I'm saying? So definitely consent and pleasure. Making sure that we both want it and it's pleasurable. That's just it for me. Once we hit those two things on the nail, it's a go. It's a party.
Yeah.
Real short and sweet.
Period.
Consent and pleasure.
I love that. I think for me, do you need to speak louder? Are we good? Okay. I think for me, the most important aspect right now is like an elevation. Like, I know, I've been really feeling like I wanted to have an outer body experience during sex. I know. I feel like I haven't had either the consistency, or if I had the consistency, I didn't have the connectedness that was prolonged enough for me to explore different aspects of spirituality and sexuality, which is something that I've just becoming more increasingly interested in over time. I just feel like there should be some plane that I leave when I do this that I haven't done yet. I'm like, why am I still here? So I think that like probably that because right now I do have a consistent sex partner. We're long distance, but we see each other, you know, I guess fairly often over, you know, the course of the months that have gone by, and it's always pleasurable, you know, it's always consensual. There's always like aspects to it that feel great, but I'm just like, when are we gonna start astral projecting? Like that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like when am I leaving my body? Okay, that's what I want to know. So I feel like in terms of all the things that are right and healthy and good, that's like the next step for me.
Okay. You know, now that you say that, I can say that I've experienced that. And so I know I know exactly what you're saying. Like, it's to the point where, and what you're saying is like a climax. So when you're being elevated, and people may not know when I climax. That means that you've elevated. You know, like you've ascended. you've reached your highest point. So when you say that, I totally understand. And with me, when it happened, I was like, I didn't even know what was going on. It's to the point where I started to cry.
Wow.
That's how literally you feel like an out-of-body experience. And the person is, they're like, what, you okay? Like, what's going on? And you can't even communicate through words because it's a feeling. It's not something that you can say, listen, this is just what happened. Like, this is what it was. But when you say that, you have an out-of-body experience. That's like the best way you can explain it because that's really what it feels like, you know? Yeah.
What were some of the, like, things that were aligned for you to reach that space? And would you ever be able to, like, either coach or, like, give someone a little information on, like, how to get there themselves, like, with their partner or maybe without a partner?
You know, I wish I could. I wish it was one of those things where I could write down, okay, you do this, you do that, you do that. I wish it was like a manual, but it literally comes with life experiences, what's going on in the moment, how you're feeling with that person at the time. You know, I feel like personally I was at my most vulnerable. It was to a point where we just figured something out between us in a relationship, so it was like a awakening, you know, and I feel like that kind of like meshed it all together, like, okay, this is what's supposed to be going on. So that's what happened with me in that moment. Now with somebody else, who knows? That's why I said it's not like a manual I can write. It was just a point in my life where I was just vulnerable. We were figuring it out. We got to a point where we were like, aha moment, and it was like, okay, we want to seal this with some good ass sex. And I thought it was just gonna be that, but I'm like, oh shit, it's more than that. Like, whoa, I can't even explain it. So I just hope everyone gets to experience it at some point in their life. It's beautiful.
Yes, I agree. I think that, like, even though there's no manual, maybe like the key points are like comfort, safety, vulnerability, openness, and like connectedness in terms of like how aligned you feel with your partner, you know, how on the same page you feel with your partner, and like how much you want to expose to your partner, because there's a lot of things that people like want to hide, but like how much do you want to show?
Right.
I feel like if you have this innate desire to show more of yourself, it will unlock and break things down where like the possibilities are endless at this point.
Absolutely.
With how much you want to show, like,
right.
And I think that's interesting too. I think like hearing myself say that, I'm like, oh, I like the way that sounds. How much do you want to show? Yeah, tell me. Because I think that like so many people always talk about all the things that they're hiding, you know.
Right.
And you cannot climax hidden. You know, like it has to be something that is open.
Definitely.
Yeah.
have a question?
Question?
I got a question. What do you define yourself as showing yourself?
Good question. I would say for me, showing yourself is being able to be honest. Like, as simply put, being able to be honest and being able to be honest about all things, like what you don't like, as you mentioned earlier, things that you do like, things that take you to the next level, ways that you get aroused, what things are happening about your body that can help you get to that point. And all those things are showing. You know, it's something, I think showing yourself most simply is letting someone know something that they wouldn't know without you telling them.
Yeah.
Because you can see a lot of things on the outside. You can see a lot of things on aspects. I guess you can like even touch someone and see how their body reacts to that. But there's different aspects to how much more you can go, or like how much further you can go based on information that is given to you. And I would say that that is the aspect of like showing yourself.
Okay.
Would you agree? Or
I definitely agree. You put it very well. That was it.
Thank you very much. Is that the only question we have so far?
With an answer like that, I gotta think of another one.
Okay. That's fine. We do have some fire round questions. Time check.
50.
Okay, perfect. Should we do some fire question rounds? So my assistant to the left, out of frame, Alex has some questions to ask us.
Okay.
In the last sex talk that, not the last one, but episode 30 that I did with a dear friend of mine, Melanie, she was here, and we had another Mount Holyoke graduate, we're all from the same college, asked us like a fire round question, and it was like really fun. I'm like, oh, should I do this now? Should we always have fire rounds? I'm thinking the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So Alex has some questions that she written down for us.
Okay.
Very easy, instead of something that can be like explained in like, you know, a paragraph or sentences, it can be something that is specifically answered like right off the bat.
Okay.
You know, to just help us get like fun, juicy, just in case the conversation was a little heavy, or maybe like a little bit more serious.
Right.
Like it's something like a little bit more cheeky and cool. Take it away, Alex. What are our questions?
So, what's your favorite color to wear in the bedroom?
Favorite color to wear in the bedroom is
Black.
I
like it.
Period. For me, I actually answered red the last time I answered this question, and I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with red. It's red. It's ruby for me.
Okay. Ropes or whip?
Ropes or whip? For me, rope.
Can I choose both? 400 Alex. Thank you. Thank you.
For Goddess is both, thank you.
Both. Thank you.
And more.
Definitely more.
Lights on or off?
Lights on or off? Lights on for me.
I would like to see what's going on. I want to see. I have very big eyes. And I use them. Lights on.
Spontaneous or planned?
Spontaneous or planned?
I like spontaneity. Surprise me. Like, just whip it out. I'm with it all. I like to say I'm Mrs. Adventure. So, yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Spontaneous.
So, although I like spontaneity, I think for me right now it's planned. It's supposed to be real fast answers. But only because, right? Now it's like, wow, let me explain now. So I think planned for me, just because right now I'm in a space where there's so much I want to explore, especially with that like elevation aspect that I want to have. So I'm like, I feel like if it's planned, it's something that I can get all right. I can get the mood right. I can get the music right. I can get the location right. I can get the lighting right. I can get like all these things right that will get me in a space where I know that I can get to that elevated location that I'm trying to reach. And if it's spontaneous, I can definitely get there too with that, but I think it would go more, it would be along the lines of like if things align in those ways, because spontaneous as opposed to like, no, we set this aside for these things to happen. So for me, planned.
To eat or be eaten?
Well,
To eat or to be eaten?
don't mind if I do. Don't mind if I do. I'm a giver and a receiver. So I can't really pick. Yeah.
For me, I want to say to eat. And it's interesting too, because I don't think I think about in terms of like pleasuring a woman, or a person with a vulva. Like, I don't think I think too much about pleasuring women often, but I definitely am more dominant when pleasuring women, which I can like attest to. So in that exchange, to eat. Good question, Alex.
Do you want more, or
If that's all, we can wrap it up.
we can wrap it up?
Okay. have any more questions?
No question. That's right.
Do you consider subspace like getting at a spiritual plane?
So for those who don't know, subspace is a euphoric state of mind that a sub kind of drifts into following a session with their dom, and it's described as a particular euphoric feeling where subs are not always even conscious when they're in this space. And so because of the stream of consciousness that happens with them, where they may not even be able to verbalize anything, they may not even know how to do like regular functions of the body, like walk or speak or tell you things, would this be considered a spiritual experience? I would say yes, and I could definitely add to that, but what would you say?
So I would say yes too. I feel like as far as being able to verbally say what it is or to, compare it to something, I would say that would probably be the best comparison. Subspace is kind of like you reaching a spiritual plane. You don't know what's going on. You really can't explain it. Like you said, sometimes you can't walk. You can't talk. It's literally an out-of-body experience. So me being a dom, when I have a sub that's in subspace, I literally have to apply physical touch, or I have to speak to them like I'm speaking to, a child almost, so that they can understand what am I saying, what's next, what the direction that I'm giving them, they're understanding it. Sometimes you have to, not sometimes, you literally have to slow it down when a person is in subspace. And not only do subs go into subspace, doms go into dom spaces as well. Because there was a time where I went into dom space where I'm like, yo, I literally just did that, and I could not communicate what I was feeling in that moment. It was like I ascended somewhere that I didn't know I was. Like, I'm like, what's going on? Like, I did not know. The adrenaline was going. It was definitely a euphoric feeling. And also with me, it was kind of paired with, how could I say, it wasn't the best thing. I kind of felt bad. Like, damn, I really beat the shit out of this person. Like, whoa. So not all the time it's pleasurable for doms. It's not always pleasurable for doms. I must say that. I can attest to that for myself, and also speaking with other doms. Sometimes you go through this guilty phase where you feel like, damn, like, am I really doing this? Or am I just doing this for money? Or, so it's definitely, a different plane or somewhere else you're going, that you're not here. You're no longer on Earth. You're somewhere else. Yeah.
And that's interesting, before we wrap it up, because I have heard of subspace. Of course, I understand what it is. And I think that I was under the impression that when it happens, a session is ending, but you mentioned slowing things down. So when your subs go into subspace, is it usually at the, climax peak when things are ending, or happens in the middle of a session and you continue going? What time frame does that happen for your subs and your experience, and what do you do after the fact?
So with my experience, I would say that I've had subs that went into subspace different points of the session. So a lot of times people say it's associated with the ending of a session. However, that's not always true. It always will relate to a person and how much they can take and where they are, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. You never know. I've had a sub come in and he asked for a whole session, and as soon as I started with the kink that he asked for, he kind of broke down. He was automatically in subspace, and speaking with him, I got that he had been going through trauma. He's experienced trauma, and him being in session with me was kind of soothing, and so it automatically took him there. So I took the rest of the session speaking with him, bringing him down, letting him know that these things are a part of life. It's nothing you did wrong. It's okay to feel like this. So yes, a person can go through subspace at any point during that session. It's not always at the ending or when it's finished. Not absolutely not. You can experience that at any point. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for the lesson. Yes. So we don't have any more questions. We're going to wrap it up.
59 minutes.
Perfect. So once again, my name is Iyanna The Model, here as a host for Sex Talk, episode 32 with Goddess Rue. Let us know where to find you. Let us know if you have anything else going on you want people to tap into before it ends.
So I have a few things coming up, but you can follow me on Instagram, Goddess Rue _, Twitter also Goddess Rue _. If you want to follow what I have coming up, my website servegoddessrue.com, and I have a Halloween party coming up on October 27th. It is a play party. And then what do I have? I'm also teaching a foot domination course on October 18th. It's Zoom right from your home. Yes, so you can be comfortable. You don't have to have your screen on. And pretty much I'm just teaching people how to come into dominance, mainly through foot sessions, because I feel like that's kind of like the easiest, or you don't really have to show your face. You don't really have to do much. You can upload your feet pictures. It does not have to be in person. And you can make a lot of money from it. A lot of money. So great extra money in your pocket.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'll be tagging Goddess Rue so that you all can follow her, find her, support her, pay her, okay, learn from her, and get all the things all up in there. Okay.
That's right.
So thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure. You're
Thank
so
you for
knowledgeable.
having me.
Like, I love speaking to someone who is a pro dominatrix, someone who's in sex work. I often speak to people who are just talking about their experiences, but it's more personal than professional. So thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And with that, we will come to a close. I'll see you at the next time. Bye.
Bye.